Thanks for joining the CaFÉ webinar with me today. Today will be a fun one as we'll be reviewing the new features the CaFÉ team has added to the site in the past year, and I will be giving you a rundown of the new features that will hopefully be added coming up in the next year. So to give you an idea of how our process works, we take the feedback submitted to us in our annual surveys and by email and phone conversation to determine which new features we want to work on adding throughout the year. And this is done for both the administrator side of CaFÉ as well as the artist side. And while I mostly go over the changes to the administrator side, since you are all CaFÉ administrators, I will mention a couple of items today that changed for artists as it does tie into your use of CaFÉ as well. So the key items that we'll cover today include, like I mentioned, a review of the latest new features added to CaFÉ. That includes how to use the new conditional logic option for application questions, and how to view the audio and work samples submitted as links. And then I'll also be giving a preview of the upcoming new features. All right, so I'm going to start our webinar today by going through a list of some of the latest new features that we've added to CaFÉ. This list doesn't cover every modification we made throughout the year, but these are the items that most pertain to your everyday use of CaFÉ and the features we want to make sure that you're aware of so that you can use them going forward. Up first, you may recall that almost a year ago, we introduced multi-factor authentication to our login. Multi-factor authentication, also referred to as MFA, means that when you log in, you're not just using your username and password, because while your password is one layer of protection, there are risks of password being compromised. And especially if you're a team that have multiple members, those risks are even higher if you share your passwords. So with MFA, once you enter your password, and I'll go ahead and go to the login page so that you can see how it works. Once you enter your password and your username and you log in, you're then required to enter a one-time code that is delivered to you and only you. So for me, I have it set up through an authenticator app that gives me a code that I can use. I don't have to wait for an email, but the email option is also available. And once you put in your code, you are then logged into your account. So MFA provides an extra layer of security to your CaFÉ account. This feature also keeps CaFÉ compliant with security standards and is a growing feature being implemented on multiple login platforms across the internet. At this stage, this extra authentication step is still optional for administrators and jurors, but as was originally intended, it may become required for all users in the future. So we'll be sure to keep everyone posted on when that would happen. Another new feature we added a while back now is the option for artists to indicate whether or not their artwork is for sale. So previously, when an artist entered the details of their work samples, they could only indicate the numerical price or value of the artwork. But after receiving feedback from artists, we added a new question that asks first if the artwork is for sale. If the artist selects yes, the price and value field is required. But if they select no, the price and value field is optional. So let me go and show you kind of just what this looks like on the administrator side. If I were to open up an application here. I think it's under this one. Yep. And then I open up the application. Along with the work samples, you can click to view the work sample and all the artwork details, and that includes this new question here, artwork for sale, yes or no, and we'll have the price listed. If the artwork was not for sale, this price might not be listed here if the artist chose not to include it. Jurors will also be able to see these details on the scorecard, unless, of course, you decide to hide this information by activating the setting that hides the artwork price. So this was added just to be able to allow artists to indicate whether or not the artwork is for sale, and maybe perhaps allow you to screen for artwork if perhaps you have a requirement that all artwork in your exhibition must be for sale. You can use this to kind of check to make sure that everything is listed. Next on the list is the emailing of large PDF and income breakdown reports. Previously, when you needed to download either the media inventory list or application PDF reports, the page would take forever to load if the file was too large, causing the page to be timed out. So to fix this, we implemented a method so that if there are more than 200 work samples on the generated report, The PDF will instead be sent in an email. So to quickly demonstrate, I'll go to a different call on CaFÉ that has a lot of submissions. And so, just to demonstrate real quickly how we get here, I went to the events and then the management section. And now I'm choosing the call from the current event drop-down list. I'm going to click on the batch of applications that I want to pull my report for. And I'm going to go to the download PDF option. Again, this new feature of emailing large reports is only for these PDFs because they include those work sample thumbnails, which is why it takes a while for them to load the report. So if I were to click on, let's say, the media inventory list, you can see here that I get a message that says my PDF is being generated. Due to the large number of work samples, we'll send it by email. And it gives you a timer to know when to expect that email. This one had over, almost 2,000 work samples, so it is going to take about 10 minutes. But if you have, just a few hundred, it's probably going to take more to 2 to 5 minutes. And that's how you would do it for downloading PDF reports. You can also, in the income breakdown report, so if I were to click on reports, income breakdown, you'll see that you also have the option to email large reports by clicking this email report. So once you put in your date range and all these other filter options, if your report might be really large, or if you simply don't want to load it onto CaFÉ and just want that report emailed to you, you can check that option. And once you run the report, it will be emailed to you. And the email itself will just include a download link. Once you click that link, it downloads the file immediately to your computer. So this method for emailing large reports ensures that you don't have to wait around on the same page in CaFÉ for the report to generate, and ensures that the system does not time you out. Instead, you can continue on with what you're doing and simply check your email for the report when it's ready. Our next latest new feature came in the form of an update to the juror interface of CaFÉ. If you recall, it was over a year ago now that we updated the design of the CaFÉ site for administrators. And following that, we more recently updated the site for jurors. So in addition to refreshing the design and colors to match the rest of the CaFÉ interface, the update also included a few new features and tweaks. So let me log out of my administrator account and then log in as my juror account. I'm going to temporarily disable that. So the first thing we did to the juror interface is add a ticket tab on the menu bar here. This wasn't previously an option. This makes it so that jurors can easily reach out to the CaFÉ team for technical assistance. Second, we added to the juror homepage. Actually, none of my jurors are in progress. Let me fix that real quick. I'll actually have to go back to my login page here and enter that. Let me quickly put this in progress so I can show you what it looks like. There we go. Go back into the juror side. Okay. So the other thing that we did on this juror interface is add some more options to the search or filter by box here. We added additional options to search by and filter by name. If you have names, you can see it's grayed out because this particular call has a blind jury activated. You can also filter by category, score, app ID. You can search for an application by app ID or artist ID. You can also filter, this is new, so you can filter by tagged applications or flagged applications. As an administrator, you can flag or tag certain applications on your end, and then the jurors can see that. They can also now sort by them. So for example, if you had a particular application you wanted the juror to pay specific attention to, you can go ahead and flag that application. The juror would come here, click this, filter for it, and see any entries that were flagged. So that's a helpful tool. The other thing we did was update the messaging throughout the site so that it more accurately reflects whether the juror needs to be assigned to an active call or if the jury process has not begun. If you remember, before I had to go back to my admin account, I had a red error message here at the top that said my jury is not yet in progress. Before, it used to be a little bit more vague. Now that error message directly tells me that I need to contact the administrator to set that jury status to in progress. So those were some updates in addition to those cosmetic changes to make the juror scorecard and the interface match the administrator side. So we'll go ahead and move to our next topic, and that is the publish call button and reminder to publish. So this new feature makes it easier for you to request to publish your call. Where before you had to send a publish request ticket and you had to remember to actually go to the ticket tab, send us an email, say that you're ready to publish, you can now click the publish call button from the call editor. So let me log in as an administrator again. And if I go to events management, I'll find the call again. I'll go to the call editor. And here's the publish call button here on the right. So when you click the publish call button, a notification is sent to the CaFÉ team to publish the call. So you'll get this message and then you can click send publish request. We will then review the call to make sure it's set up properly, and then we'll publish the call for you and when we do that, it sends a confirmation email to you, and that will include the call's unique URL that you'll then use to share with your networks and promote it. So all of that is a more simple process where you can just click that button and send that notification, and you'll receive an email when your call is published. The other thing we did when we added this publish call button was set up a reminder in CaFÉ in which if your call's open date, aka the accept applications date, which is this date here, if this date approaches, more specifically, once this open date is 7 days out and your call is still not published, you will then receive an email reminder that you need to publish your call in order for it to be open for artists to apply. So this ensures that even if you build out your call details and set up everything for artists, you don't forget to submit your publish request and you don't reach your open date without a published call. And just a little refresher too, you can have us publish your call before your date, before your call actually opens. So, we can have everything published, and then on your accept applications date is actually when artists are starting to be able to apply. So be sure to have your call published before you want your applications open. And we usually get to publish requests within the same day that it's submitted during our business hours. And, that is Monday through Friday. So if you send a publish request over the weekend, we'll get to it first thing Monday. The next two features that I have for you are the most recently added ones. These are both added at the end of July. So the first one is adding the option for artists to link to audio or video work samples online. So artists now have two options for adding audio or video work samples to their portfolio. They can upload the file directly, just as was required before, or as of now, they can enter the URL of the work sample if available online. This will save artists from having to upload a file that's already online and having to reduce file sizes to match CaFÉ's file size and formats. So to briefly show you what this looks like on the artist side, I'll go ahead and log in. This is the artist dashboard, and I'm going to go to the portfolio. So this is where artists upload images, audio, and video files, and then they will take these files to attach to the applications they're submitting to you. When I go to add a media to my portfolio and I can choose either audio or video, I'll go ahead and choose the video option. You'll see we have these two options. And they can upload a file as normal, or now they can add a video link. For videos, we accept Vimeo, or YouTube. And then for audios, we accept things like SoundCloud, Spotify links, or if the audio file is available anywhere else online, they can use any URL for that. For video right now, it's just Vimeo or YouTube. And let me go ahead and copy one into here. So they can put in a YouTube link, click save and continue. Then what they'll do is they'll enter the artwork details just as they would any other work sample. So they'll fill out the title. For video specifically, it's duration, year completed, description, and they can add that to their portfolio. I already have one in here, so I'll show you what it looks like. Back on the portfolio page, you can see that we have a couple videos submitted. The one that's indicated by this little link icon means that it was submitted as a link. So you'll see that when I go to play this, It's an embedded video from the YouTube site, and I can just go ahead and I can go ahead and play that here and not have to worry about the file itself opening. And so, yeah, the same goes for audio links. It will just open up a player given by the hosting site. And depending on the permissions set up, it will either play a preview or it will allow them to play the full thing. But anywhere that a video is embedded like this, it will always include a video link to the URL itself so that anyone viewing it can click to view the video or the audio on the site that it comes from. And so what I'm going to do is show you what this looks like as an administrator. And so I'll come into here. I'll go into our other call that has this, and I'll open that up. So this is the artist application page, and this is a work sample. As you can see, any links that are uploaded appear just as a normal work sample, and you can go in to click on it. Again, as you can see here, it is embedded just like it was on the artist side, and you can click to view the URL here if you want to watch it on YouTube instead of CaFÉ. And this is what it looks like on the juror side as well. They just view the embedded video and can also click on that URL. If there was a problem with the embedding or anything like that, that URL ensures that they can view that work sample. And just a quick update about this as well. If you accept audio or video files for your call for entry, and an artist were to submit a link, if you're on the small plan, which is the plan that does charge $3 per video or audio collected, if the artist were to submit it as a link, that doesn't charge that $3 fee. That's because the $3 fee is for our server hosting. So we don't actually have to store that file. It's just being embedded, so you're not charged that $3. Keep in mind, though, that there's no way to differentiate whether or not you only accept links or those files themselves. So you do just have to expect the charge if anyone were to submit a file upload for a video or audio work sample. So the final item in our latest new features list is the option to use conditional logic for your application questions. So you can now create application questions with conditional logic to collect more detailed information from artists. Fun fact, in our annual survey 2 years ago, 31% of respondents chose conditional logic questions as the top feature they wanted to see added to CaFÉ. So that just goes to show how we use those survey answers to potentially turn those into new features if enough people say they want it. So what conditional logic does is display or hide questions based on an applicant's response to another question. So before I show you how it's built up, I will show you the end result of it so you can see kind of more about it and how, when I go to show how to set it up, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So here we have this application that was built, and we have the question here, are you a member? And you'll see if I click, no, I'm not a member, or not sure, nothing happens. They can move on to the next question. But if I were to click, yes, I am a member, it opens up that second question that says, this example, will you be attending the annual members reception? And so this allows you to, have an answer and then open it up a new question based on that answer. This is just one example of a practical use of this information. But you can set up any question that you need with conditional logic to work for your application. Below here's another example in which we have the question ask me to choose, how did I hear about this call for entry? And I can choose any of these options, but let's say nothing applies to me. I'll go ahead and just choose that other option. And then conditional logic question allows us to build it so that this other text box opens up where you can specify, where you heard about us. So this is useful. This is one use case that's pretty common. So now you can kind of set it up this way. Now I can go ahead and show you how to build the actual application questions with this. So I'll go to the administrator side and let's go to I believe it's this one here. Yeah. We'll go to the call editor. And under the application editor, which is where we'll build these application questions, and in the custom form questions is where we'll build these questions. So the first step to create conditional logic application questions is to first build the base question the artist needs to answer. So let's use this member example that I showed you. The first thing I'm going to do is click on Build New Question. I'm going to choose the radio button type, and then I'm going to fill out these fields. So, the internal title will just be member. My question will be, are you a member? And what I'm going to do is build two options, yes or no. And then that's the question itself. I don't have to turn anything else on here. The conditional logic setting is actually just going to remain turned off for this question because this question is going to appear on the application no matter what. Then I'll just click Create Question and it gets added to our list here. So now the next step is to set up the question that will appear only if the artist selects yes to the previous question. Again, I'm going to click Build New Question, and I'll choose the radio button type because I also want a yes/no answer for the second question about the reception. So I'm going to do the same thing and set up the questions and answers. So will you be attending the reception? And then this time, let me build out my question and answers, yes or no. This time I am going to turn on the enable conditional logic setting. And let me take you around these settings here. So the first option you have is show or hide. Show means you want your question to not display on the application form until the criteria that we're going to build next is met. And then hide means you don't want your question to display unless that criteria is met. I'm going to set mine to show. And then you have the any or all setting. Any means that the question will show or hide if at least one of the rules created in the next step is met. And then the all setting means that the question will show or hide if all rules are met. This will make more sense in the next step. So for example, I'm going to use the show and any. So I know I want the question to be hidden until the artist selects a specific answer. So I'll click show. And then I only know I have one rule that I need to set up to be met, which you'll see in a second. So I'm just going to choose the any option. But if you only have one rule, the all option would work too. And what I'm going to do is click add new rule to create that criteria. So here we have more options. Select a question is where I'll list. It's going to list all the application questions we currently have. And I'm going to choose the one that this conditional logic question will pertain to. So I'll choose the member question. The next option you have is not, or contains. So here you'll select whether the answer given by the applicant in that previous question that will ultimately trigger this new question is not, or contains the answer you choose in this next step. So in other words, does the answer given in the previous question have to match exactly, in which you would choose the is option, does not match at all, so is not, or includes or contains the answer you're looking for. So for this example, I'm going to choose is because what I want to know is if the answer given by the artist is yes, I want the question to appear. And then finally, select an answer here. You just select the answer that is going to trigger this conditional logic question. So I'm looking for the answer yes, and so I'll choose that. So that's it. We've set up the criteria, basically saying, show this question if any of the following match, in which case member question, are you a member, is yes. So that's all we have to do, and I'm going to click create question. You can also add multiple rules, in which case, it gets a little bit more advanced, but you can have multiple things that would trigger this conditional logic question. For the purpose of my demonstration here, I'm just going to leave it as simple as possible, but there are further customization options. So once we do that, I will click create question, and that will be added. So if I were to preview this call here, you'll see here that we just created this one here, are you a member? And once I click on yes, it adds that second question. I do also want to show you how to set up that question for the other answer where they need to elaborate if the answer doesn't apply to them. So I just already created it here, so I'll show you what it looks like. First, we have that first base question we set up with a drop-down list that asks how they heard about the call for entry, and it lists the answer options that we gave, including this other answer option. So just make sure you create an answer option that's other. Then we left this conditional logic off since it's going to be asked to everyone. In our next question we built, it's just one that says, if you chose other, please specify. And in this case, we did enable conditional logic, and I set it up so that it says, show this question if any of the following match. How did you hear about us is other. So that means it will display if someone chose the other option. And just demonstrate again on the preview here, it just shows this question. And if I chose other, then that question would appear. All right, so that's how you build out conditional logic application questions. So the last thing I want to go over today is our list of new features that the CaFÉ team hope to implement in the next year. As with the last list, these are not the only features and improvements we plan to work on, but are the ones that most pertain to your role as administrators using the site, and they're the ones, frankly, that are most likely to be added soon. So the first soon to be added new feature is the jury zoom. This feature will allow jurors to zoom in and out of the artwork images as they were viewing them in the scorecard. They will also have the option to view the artwork image in full screen on the device they're using. This will make it easier and more pleasant for jurors to review the artwork the way they like to view it. It will also mean the quality of the images that artists submit will be even more important than they already are, because jurors will be able to zoom in and hopefully see more detail. As this feature is being worked on right now, I can confidently say that this feature is expected to be released within the next couple of months, so expect to see that on CaFÉ soon. The next item on our list here is one that 47% of artists who responded to the survey this year chose as their top feature they want added to CaFÉ. And that's the ability to organize their portfolios more and have additional image management options. This feature would be multifaceted and may include tools like organizing work samples into different folders or sections, being able to view their work samples in a grid view or list view and sort those work samples, and maybe also add tags or comments or to better organize their artwork. Some artists have close to the maximum number of images allowed, which is 100 per artist account. So being able to organize and categorize these images would help artists use CaFÉ more effectively and apply to calls more easily. Our next on the list is adding a feature where you as administrators could create email templates for your event communication. So some of you may have standard language you use for the letters you send to artists that are selected, or for the letters you send to artists that are not invited. This feature would allow you to save that language as an email template, so you don't have to rewrite or input it into CaFÉ every time you send one of those emails out. Instead, you'd have this saved list of templates to choose from, and when you're ready to use it, you just load that text into the email and customize it for your specific event. This feature would save you time when you go back to create your email notifications for each event year over year. The next potential improvement to CaFÉ, having additional payment methods, mostly applies to artists again, but I thought you'd all like to know this since it ties into making a better application experience for those who apply to your call. In addition to credit card and PayPal, we'll explore other options for paying entry fees, such as Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay. So this wouldn't affect how you receive those entry fees, since it would still all go through CaFÉ, which we then remit to you every month. But this would give artists more options and alternatives for paying their entry fees. And not only if they have a preferred payment method, but maybe if they have an issue with one type, they have additional options to try another. Next up would be a feature that allows you to set up jury criteria for your jurors. This feature was chosen as the most helpful enhancement by 22% of you who responded to our survey this year. As some of you may already know and already use in your own jury methods, there may be a number of categories you have for your jurors to base their score on, whether that be technique, creativity, interpretation of theme, whatever that may be. Each category may also have a certain weight to that overall score that the artist or artwork receives. So since CaFÉ doesn't currently have a spot to put this information or calculate those scores, some organizations, might right now send their jurors a set of criteria to consider outside of CaFÉ and then just have them put in their final score into the CaFÉ scorecard. This new feature would allow you to keep everything in CaFÉ and have the criteria available to the juror to reference and keep track of inside of CaFÉ. So I know this feature is particularly highly requested, so we'll be sure to update everyone on when this would be expected to be rolled out. All right, so another upcoming new feature for CaFÉ is the ability to set tiered pricing for your entry fees. As you all may know, CaFÉ allows you to have one entry fee price for a certain number of images and a media fee price for additional artwork submitted above the minimum number. Keep in mind what I'm talking about here will only pertain to calls that score by individual artwork, not by a body of work or application. So just for those jury by artwork calls. So with how it is now, for example, you could charge $30 for 3 images and $5 for each additional image above 3, but that would mean that you have to set your minimum number of images to 3, meaning an artist must submit at least 3 images no matter what. In other words, there's currently no way to charge $30 for 1, 2, or 3 images, and then $5 for each additional images, because that would require 2 tiers or 2 ranges, in which $30 is for 1 to 3, and $5 is 4 to, let's say, 6, for example. So this new feature, though, would allow that to happen, in which you could have one entry fee for a range of images and a media fee for a different range of images. So in that example, your entry fee could be 1 to 3 images, and your additional media fee would apply to the 4 to 6 images. Essentially, this tiered pricing feature would allow more flexibility and customization for how you charge your entry fees, and hopefully eliminate some of the headaches that are caused by having a minimum number that artists must adhere to in order to get a fair number of entries for their entry fee. And our next feature is one that we know has been highly requested and long awaited by administrators. We certainly hope this is the year for it, which we're able to roll it out. That feature is the ability to bulk download documents uploaded by artists on their applications. To elaborate, if an artist uploads a file to their application, perhaps for a resume, biography, references, or anything else that you may have them upload as a file, you currently have to go into each artist application to individually download each document. We know how tedious this can be. So this new feature would simply allow you to download all of those files at once, so you don't have to go into each one separately. I'm not sure yet what this would look like or how it would work, but we know that having the option to download those materials at the same time would save you all a lot of time and effort. So we certainly plan to work on this feature. And then the last upcoming new feature we have would be, the gallery feature. The gallery feature would allow you to publish certain selected artworks into your own gallery page on CaFÉ for the public to see. Again, this feature is in preliminary stages, so I don't know all that it would include, but the basic concept is to allow you to take what's already in CaFÉ and create your own online exhibition without having to export the images and download all the info. Instead, you just have to set up a few things and it would be created for you. This would be a wonderful supplement for in-person exhibitions, or simply allow you to publicly announce and publish the selected artists or artwork to share with your network. So yeah, these are the list of upcoming new features for CaFÉ. I do have to end with the disclaimer that it's not guaranteed that all of these features will be added in a certain time frame. As I'm sure you can relate to, things may happen that could delay our timeline or cause changes to these features, but our team is always working hard to bring you updates to the site that would make your experience better. I also want to say that if you have any feedback or maybe suggestions for any of these features, don't hesitate to reach out to us. So much of what we add and change and fix started with an email or phone call or survey response that we've taken into consideration. So you're the ones actually using CaFÉ for your projects. So we always want to hear from you about what can be improved or what more you'd like to see from us. If you want to chat with us, just reach out. cafehelp@weststaff.org is our email, and we'd be happy to talk with you. And with that, that concludes our webinar of the latest and upcoming new features for CaFÉ. I hope you learned some new things you could start using for your calls now and are excited about some of these new features we hope to add soon. We do have a question in the chat. Can an artist change their responses to the conditional logic questions? They can change their responses as they're working on the application. You know, if I'm an artist in here filling out the application, they can do that. If they were to choose, let's say, are you a member? And they say yes, and they get to this question and they realize, oh, maybe I'm not a member, you know, they can go back and say, no, I'm actually not a member. And that would close that conditional logic question. Once they submit their application, though, they can't change any responses to these questions unless, of course, you were to put their application into the incomplete status, which allows them to modify their application and change their answers, but they can't go in there on their own and change anything. I hope that answers the question. Yeah, thank you. And then we have our question about conditional logic. So the question is, my show requires an artist statement, but I do receive the application without the statement. How can the system prevent the application to go through until the statement is provided? Yeah, so let's show you what it looks like. Again, here we have the application editor. If you collect artist statements through this artist statement option here, basically what that means is, you know, it's a pre-built application question that you would turn on if you are collecting artist statements. This would mean it's required for every application to be submitted with an artist statement. So, you know, if you set this on, this becomes required. If an artist fails to put in any text into that artist statement on the application and they try to go ahead, they will receive an error message that they need to provide a statement first. So unless they're doing some weird thing where they're not actually putting in text, but, you know, writing in, you know, blank spaces or something like that, which is not really something anyone really does, but that should be required. If you are building application questions for your artist statement in which instead of activating this, you instead build a question that says, here, you know, put in your artist statement, maybe you create a text type of a question and you ask, you know, here, like, you know, please provide an artist statement. Here, you'll just want to make sure that you turn the required toggle on because that would make it so that an artist can't move on to save or submit their application without answering this question. So just make sure that it's set to required if you are trying to require artist statements. Can you reject the application if it doesn't fit the requirement? Technically, yes, there's a way to take out an application, and that's simply by moving the application from the received status to the withdrawn status. You would just want to let the artist know that you are withdrawing them because they don't fit the requirements. But can you reject them? That's up to you and your organization if you want to reject applications. But yeah, I also say if you have it in your terms of applications, then yeah. Can you reject the application if it doesn't fit the requirement? A conditional question. Oh, I see what you mean. If you were to build out a conditional logic question that says, let's just, for example, are you a member? If they click no, then they aren't allowed to do it. Or if they're artists to be, you know, California resident. I see. So while you technically can't, you know, stop an artist from submitting an application if they were to say, no, I'm not an, you know, California resident or something like that. Right now, we can't prevent artists that don't meet eligibility requirements such as location. We can't actually prevent artists from applying in that sense. But what you could do is build out a, you know, kind of a stopping thing where you would say, you would build out a question that says, are you, let's say, for example, are you a California resident? Then they would, you know, click no. Your conditional logic question would then pull up something that says, you are not eligible for this event. Please do not apply. So you would set up two questions. One would be, are you a resident? The second would be something that says you are not eligible to apply. When you build that second conditional logic question, you would choose the informational only type. And that would, it's not really a question, but it just kind of makes it so that when you enter in some text, you can put something like you're not eligible. And when that appears on the application, hopefully it stops them. The other thing you could do is, I know this is getting kind of long-winded, but you could create one question that says, are you a California resident? If they click yes, then every question you have in your application subsequent to that would appear with conditional logic and appear on the page and be good to go. But if they click no, then they're not given the rest of those application questions, and instead it is given a message that says you're not allowed to submit. So there's ways to do that. If you want more help customizing your call for that and setting that up, feel free to reach out to us and we can provide direct assistance for that. Thanks again for joining us. Be sure to join our next webinar next month.